Welcome back to Morning Express. It's time for us now to look at the state of the nation. Now, we do know that in Naivasha, there was the Devolution conference that has been taking place, opened officially by the president on Tuesday and officially ends today. But the theme for the Devolution conference has been telling your story. And of course, one of the things, Prof, we started by asking is whose story is being told? Because when you have governors coming together, sitting and telling the story, then of course it may be one story or one-sided story. There is the story that is often told of the hunter. And as long as the hunted never has a voice, then the hunter becomes glorified and nobody ever gets to know about the lion or the hunted. So that's where we start off from. And remember, you're welcome to participate in this conversation this morning. We're here with Prof to just look at what was happening. Michelle Ngele compiled a number of interviews that was taking place in Naivasha. And as a result, we'd just like to look at what Devolution has done for this country. Has it worked for us or not? We're going to open up the phone lines. We'd like to hear from you and to hear your story. Remember, the theme of this year's Devolution conference is you telling your story regarding devolution. But first, let's start with one governor who has, let's say, been controversial or has been found on the wrong side of many to a point where he was, thrown out of his party and started Maendeleo Chap Chap. That is the governor for Machakos County, and that is Alfred Mutua. He has also been praised by some regarding some of the developments that have been seen in Machakos County. However, these developments, some have claimed, have come at a cost, and this is the cost that Kenya is grappling with of corruption. But let's first of all listen into him, then we can discuss and talk about that. Remember, you're welcome to participate and let us know what your thoughts are regarding devolution. What is your story? But for now, Alfred Mutua.
The most important thing is that we have actually changed people's lives. We have moved the discussion and the politics of this country from politics of poverty, from the politics of sycophancy, from the politics of who is from which region, which tribe, to the politics of development. The reason people elect governments is because they want a change in their lives. And we've been able to show in Machakos that actually people's lives can change when they're still alive. Because once you die, you don't come back again.
This is the very first time, well, not really the first time. It is the 4th annual Devolution conference, but then the last one for the devolved, the pioneer units. And, a lot is being taken to stock. But for Machakos County specifically, how have the 4 years seen gains in terms of devolution?
Well, I think for my people, they have seen a big change, especially let's look at healthcare, for example. I bought 8 ambulances. So in Machakos, there's an ambulance in every location. Our response time is similar to the one in London, to the one in South Africa, to the one in Australia, to the one in the US. We have actually upgraded the quality of life of our people, saved over 60,000 lives. We have actually refabricated and gone in and cleaned up our health centers and hospitals. People are getting quality healthcare. Water. I bought rigs which are digging water, which are actually now providing water to homes. In Ukambani, our problem has been water and food. And so now we are getting people so that this idea of mothers going to pick dirty water from rivers is actually being minimized day by day. And then food security. I bought 40 tractors to increase the amount of land being cultivated. I give free chicken to people. I give free seeds. In other words, it's for the first time, and I can proudly say this, for the first time since independence, Machakos has been left out of that list that requires food relief. Why? Because of what my government has done, because of what Devolution has been able to do. We've built highways, we've built stadiums, parks, we've brought a sense of life to people to know that it is actually possible to have a good life.
And of course, I'm sure it hasn't been easy. What are some of the challenges that you have faced in implementing some of these things?
I think the challenges initially, there are 2 challenges, actually 3. One is for the workers to be able to move with the same speed that are moving in, which I call Maendeleo Chap Chap. That has been a problem. People are very narrow-minded when it comes to sorting out issues. Kama hakuna memo imeandikwa hujapata jibu, you just sit down. Without knowing that what matters is the service to wananchi, not whether the car broke down. Take a boda boda, the boda boda broke down. Take a bicycle, the bicycle is not there. Walk, my legs hurt. Crawl. The idea is get the work done. That has been a problem. The second challenge has been we've not had enough money. to do what we want to do. That has been a bit of a challenge. I wish I had more money. I would have miracles, to show that we can actually do it. And the third and the last one has been the politics of poverty. There are leaders who for a long time never did anything for our people. Leaders who believe that they like to be lords of the poor, because if you are the lord of the poor, then the poor always look at you as a demigod, as a mini god. I have changed, that narrative. And they have tried to impeach me, they have interfered with my government, they have infiltrated, and they have insulted us. It's only because they think about themselves. Their families are okay, their wives are okay, they are not carrying mtungis of maji, their children are overseas or they are at home. Wako sawa. Mimi natetea haki ya mwananchi. And that has been what has really, pushed them to the wall. That's why I even formed my own political party.
Now, like you mentioned, you've had a lot of challenges, issues of impeachment, but you've also been on the limelight for allegations, and I repeat, allegations of corruption. Corruption is one of, the most rampant criticism, really, that has been leveled against devolution. And what many Kenyans are asking, governors are asking for more money to the counties, but here they are misappropriating this money. What's your response to that?
And I think any governor who has stolen any money should be jailed. Any senator who's stolen money or taking bribes should be jailed. Any cabinet secretary, any person in the cabinet who is stolen money should be jailed. But look at my case, for example. What is corruption? They say you never stole any money, no money was lost, you actually saved money, but there was a procedure that was skipped by one of your officers. So you're accused of corruption. Corruption is actually stealing money, not saving money. I bought second-hand vehicles because I thought I don't want the luxury that my people do not want. Saved money so that I could buy ambulances for my people. So you want to charge me because I saved money, I never stole any shilling, no money was lost at all, you can account for every shilling, but you're saying one of your officers skipped 1 or 2 steps. Yeah, are we fighting corruption? Are we using politics to fight people who are working? And that is why we will never be able to defeat corruption unless we go for the corrupt. If you go for the people saving money, if you go for the people who are trying to do something, if you go for the people who are committed to service, then you will never be able to fight corruption, because the corrupt will walk free and the good people will suffer. And this country will always be in trouble.
Now, this is the very first time that Kenya is headed to the elections with county governments already in place. There is a lot of anxiety of how this is going to play out, of whether election-related violence is going to reverse the gains that have been made by devolution. How is it working for you in your campaigns?
My campaigns are good. My campaigns are not only in Machakos, but also nationwide. This is because I have my party, Maendeleo Chap Chap. It's now become the single largest standing party that has not been formed by bringing other parties together in the country. I'm very proud of that. So what we are urging people is telling people you can preach peace and you can talk to people about development, and you ask for your votes using policies. Talk to people. People now want development and they have seen the changes, and we know that we'll reap. We'll have a very strong harvest come August 8th.
Right. Now, finally, is devolution here to stay, or is it, on its way out?
I'll just put it simply, as one of us put it one time. If devolution fails, prepare for a revolution.
All right, so that's Dr. Alfred Mutua, the governor for Machakos County, and a few questions asked there. And what would be nice is also to have residents of Machakos County let us know, because like we said, Prof, this is the governor speaking, so he's likely to chest them.
I can't even recognize what he was describing. The guy is describing heaven. I'm not so sure that there is a county that reflects what he was talking about.
Well, to be fair, he has mentioned that he has bought ambulances. We saw them, arraigned in the stadium one time, and nice pictures taken of the ambulances. As to whether they're working and solving the problem, now it's the residents who would tell us whether they're working. But just a general overview of, first of all, his idea of devolution, and the fact that what has stopped him from performing miracles is not Jesus, but money.
There's something that Mutua has said that I don't want to forget, so I want to speak about it first. Yeah?
Okay.
He said, I have a political party. You heard him say, I have a political party. It does seem Michael, that the ultimate achievement of a politician in Kenya today is to have their own political party.
But what is wrong with that, Prof, if it's going to get the job done?
One, what do you mean by I have a political party? A political party, Michael, is not private property, okay? If he was saying, we, the people, okay, have come up with a political party. But he's saying, me, Governor Mutua, now, I have not only done ABCD, but I also have a political party. So I am not just doing local politics of the county. I'm doing national politics because I have a political party. This, Michael, is a problem with the approach to politics that we have. That politics in this country is not about the people. It is about the politicians. And when you hear him speak, like we are saying, you're saying, tell your own story. The story that we are having, if you look at the papers today, there are acres and acres of supplements that have been bought by governors and by county governments to tell us their story. I am not saying that Governor Mutua hasn't done half the things that he claims that he has done, but is it possible for us to hear those things from the right voices and from the beneficiaries and from the people who are the recipients of these goodies from Mutua so that we can collaborate his story? For what it is worth, has Governor Mutua raised the profile of Machakos? I think he has, yes.
And that's a good thing.
Yes.
Now, if that was reflected in other counties,
Yes.
then definitely as a country would be feeling
Yes.
more of the effect.
Yes.
But
Yes.
there's also the issue of corruption, which he and everybody
Yes.
in leadership seems
Yes.
to say,
Yes.
if you are caught being corrupt, then
Yeah.
you should be arrested.
Yeah.
But we do know that they're the same people who go and short-circuit the
Yes.
same system
Yes.
to ensure that they do not get caught.
Yes.
So maybe what would be the progressive way to look at this, especially from a county level,
Yes.
in terms of corruption?
I listened to presentation by Boniface Monkey on TED. He had a TED talk. And I listened to the TED talk, and it's actually on my blog. I thought it was important to upload it on my blog because people should listen to it. And he says that Kenya is a place where you are guilty until proven rich. Okay? And there is a sense in which I agree with Mutua. Can we fight corruption by going after the corrupt people and by jailing the corrupt people? Let us not make a circus out of this corruption thing. And you know, again, I was talking about storytelling. There was the boy who cried wolf. We cannot be crying wolf, wolf, wolf every time, because what happens is that when the real corrupt people steal money, they get away with it because we will say, this is the usual wolf, wolf business. There's a sense which I agree with Mutua that if we are serious about fighting corruption, can we go after the corrupt and can we jail the corrupt? Early this week, Michael, you remember when we were doing newspaper reviews, the story of Ngilu, Charlotte Ngilu, okay? She was hounded out of cabinet. She was taken through the revolving door at EACC. And now, once the investigations are done, there is nothing.
Nothing is found.
Nothing has been found. Yet, money was lost. Don't forget, money was lost. Have we found the guy who went with the money? No.
Not yet.
I think Governor Mutua is right. If we are going to be serious about corruption, we must go after the corrupt.
But the challenge here might be the corrupt are the same in charge of the the things that are in place to fight the corrupt.
Yes.
Let's use a different example. Yes. We also had in the papers the other day, Chris Okemo and Gishuru, who basically, as a result of what happened, some money is going to be brought back, a good number of millions coming back to the country. Yes. We do have people in the UK who are doing time for that particular corruption scam that took place. But in Kenya, we don't have a culprit.
And I don't see you, I hope you're not holding your breath. I don't see you having a culprit anytime soon. Well,
I'm not holding my breath, but at the same time, I think we need to have to be still continue talking about this because we must get a culprit.
I hear you, Michael, but don't forget that in this country, there is absolutely no political will to fight corruption. No political will. And it will not get fought. I have hypothesized that the Jubilee government cannot fight corruption and survive the fight. It can't.
What, the government would have to crumble?
It would have to crumble. And I have called it the Samsonian. You know the story of Samson when he was tied to the pillars at the temple and he wanted to bring down the temple.
Right.
So, and I've said that for them it's a Samsonian occurrence. If they fight ethnicity, if they fight corruption, they're finished. So how do we get on in a country whose regime depends on corruption, impunity, and ethnicity to survive? It's not going to work. So I'm not holding my breath.
But is it just the regime or is it generally the society that is corrupt?
No.
Because for them to push or for corruption to remain such a big issue for so long, it surely can, okay, I know it starts at the top, but it surely cannot just be the government.
It is just the government. And we underestimate, Michael, the influence of the government on a direction that a country takes. I will remind you that a few years ago, okay, freedom, we couldn't have this kind of discussion.
Absolutely.
Okay? We couldn't have this a few years ago. What happened? You didn't change. I didn't change. What changed? Government changed. Okay? There are things that will only happen in this country when there is political will to make them happen. For so long as there is no political will to fight corruption, it will not be fought. That's number one. Number two, Michael, I am absolutely opposed to the narrative that there is something wrong with us Kenyans. There is nothing wrong with us. Let nobody come here and talk about society, that the problem is society. All those years, Michael, when we had a single party dictatorship, okay, was there anything wrong with the people? There was nothing wrong with the people.
It was the government.
It was the government. The government is a superstructure that creates the substructures upon which society thrives. It's the one that dictates the direction. Let me give you an example. Cuba, okay? There was a revolution in 1959, okay? Cuba took on a very different trajectory compared to any other country, okay? It is not because the people of Cuba are bad people, are good people, or they are wise people. It's because there was a government that said, this is the direction that we are taking. For so long as we have a government that says we cannot prosecute corruption because we will fall, it will not happen.
It will not happen.
And there is nothing wrong with us, Michael.
Okay, let's go back to devolution and talking about whether there's anything wrong with us or not. We also have some stories of residents or their story regarding devolution, and we'd like to play that. Then we come back and we can talk about that a little bit. But here's one of those stories.
Over 4 years of devolution and Kenya's devolution transformation, the bigger question is whose devolution story have we been telling? Is it the leaders or the citizens? Well, here with us now is Dahir Daud Ahmed, a resident of Tana River County, here to tell Tana River County's devolution story. Many thanks for joining us on KTN News, Daud.
Thank you.
How far has devolution come in Tana River County?
We have achieved so much at the moment in Tana River County, but there are a lot of challenges as well. Most of the issues are misplaced priorities and the lack of participatory planning and budgeting. Yes.
Misplaced priorities. Can you explain that in a bit more detail?
Yeah. Instead of coming to the people, asking them what they would want the county to do for them, they impose projects on the people, such that most of the time projects end up being white elephant projects.
Right.
Yes.
Now, residents of Tana River County decided to take matters into their own hands. What are you doing about this?
Okay, we would not wish people to take matters into their own hands. The spirit of the 2010 Constitution is very clear. If there are disagreements within the county, there are ways we can address them. We have a memorandum, we have petitions that we take them to the county assembly, and we can seek judicial redress if people are not satisfied with what the county is doing. Yes. Yes.
Now, I understand you're working with a certain organization that is really taking leaders to account in the counties.
Yes. We are working with a Partnership for Transformational Devolution. That is an organization that is implementing that project, co-funded by the European Union. The main issues that we are concerned with are how people effectively participate in the running of the issues of their county, both the policy issues and the budget issues. How are people participating on matters that concern their livelihoods?
Stephen, a lot has been said about devolution, and we've been talking of the stories that are being given by the governors, the stories being given by the senators from Kitui County. What is your devolution story?
From Kitui County, a lot has been done. Actually, before devolution came, the roads were impassable. The hospitals were in pathetic situations. Pregnant women used to deliver in pathetic situations too. We also had many children not going to school. Now that we have also ECD being devolved, a lot is being done by the county governments. In Kitui County, we also have a lot of youth projects done by the county government of Kitui. Among them, the Youth Infrastructure and Savings Program. Also, the youth have been trained as young contractors. But more nice to talk of is about the road connectivity. Actually, almost all the roads in Kitui County now, they are connecting to each other, either by grading or by tarmac. Right now, I have seen tarmac since we had independence in Kitui County. Actually, a county that used to have bad roads. When you talk about roads, we have many things to boast about in Kitui County. We have the culverts, we have the bridges, we have the graded roads, we have the tarmac roads, we have roads connecting the rural areas with the urban centers, and we also have roads connecting the people with the institutions which are of essence to their lives, like health sector, like the schools, like the markets. Yeah. In addition, and a lot has been done on also boosting tourism in Kitui County, because when you talk about good road networks, we talk about flourishing tourism, whereby a tourist can connect one place to another with ease.
All right, so those are some of the stories regarding devolution, but we also have a caller, Austin from Nairobi. Good morning, Austin, and thank you for calling. To your comments or contributions. Of looking at some of those interviews that Michelle had done earlier, and also looking at the notion, sometimes we feel like our government, local government, depending on where you are, is doing us a favor by bringing those services to us. It's a right that we're supposed to have.
Yeah, it is a right that we are supposed to have. And unfortunately, and this has been the general theme of our discussions, we are not hearing the stories from the recipients. And the few stories we are hearing from the recipients is like the story we have heard from the corner. Okay? So that there is a disconnect between the stories that you're hearing from the governors and the stories that you're hearing from the people. I asked a question last week when we were talking about development, and I asked, what is development? Do the people and their leaders have the same concept of development? So that when the leaders say they have brought development to the people, can the people confidently say they have received development from their leaders? When Mutua was speaking in that clip, he gave a few examples of development from his point of view. He said they have bought ambulances. He said they have bought rigs. He said they have bought tractors. Those are the examples that I hear.
That he gave.
Okay, that he gave. And remember, we said earlier on that there is a preference by leaders to go for those projects that give them opportunity for graft, as opposed to those projects that make life different for the people. Look at ambulances. I do not think that it helps. Okay, it does help, okay? I do not think it helps to the extent that Mutua wants us to believe when you have 100 ambulances and the service providers in the hospitals have not changed. You have not trained doctors, you have not trained nurses,
not expanded the hospitals.
You have not expanded, or if you have expanded the hospitals, you have not brought the technical human resource capital that is required. Okay, so that it is easier for Mutua to buy and for other governors to buy ambulances because they can be seen on the road. And they make a lot of noise, by the way. For him, that is development. How do the people feel this development? In 1 year, for example, Mutua should tell us how many people need an ambulance so that now he can justify 100 ambulances.
It's taking care of a certain
population. So what we need to hear, Michael, and I'm not sure that we are hearing it, is more voices from the recipients of development, so that we can now be able to evaluate how has the quality of life of the people changed because of the development that has been brought to them by the
Okay, and now this story of the recipient, two things. One is how to get it, and secondly, what gauge do we use to measure that? Because, I mean, 100 ambulances, if we can use that as an example, is a step in the right direction.
It is.
But maybe, given the resources that are available, maybe given what is required, you could have had 300 ambulances. So what is our measuring stick? What is it that we use to measure as to whether it's actually a good deal or we're in a step in the right direction?
The idea of devolution, Michael, was to bring people into government. The concept of devolution is anchored on participation of the people. So that the priorities of Mutua must be the priorities of the people, okay? So that we can break this disjointed narrative of me as a governor, I have brought you development. You, the people, why are you saying you have not received development? I do not, and it is early days, and we are learning. And I hope that as we go on, we will understand that development, that devolution is about people participation. For so long as this people participation is either not there or it is perceived not to be there, the narrative will be disjointed. I do not know, though, that coming from the dispensation that we are coming from, that we are a very participatory democracy from the point of view of the leaders and from the point of the view of the people. The people still think that it is somebody's business somewhere to solve their problem. They still haven't come into the new dispensation that it is their responsibility. It's actually their duty, their civic duty.
But that, although that could be an intentional way of our political spheres to ensure that people feel they are owed a favor by the government or owed a favor by politicians.
An ignorant population is always a gift to the politicians. And politicians have absolutely no motivation or initiative to educate the people. And this is where you and I come in, the people who are in the media, the people who are content developers, the broadcasters and the journalists and the bloggers. This is where the community-based organizations come in and civil societies come in, because there is no incentive on the part of government to make sure that the people are educated. Absolutely. And the government is not going to do it.
All right, hold that thought. Let's talk to Kathy from Machakos. Good morning, Kathy, and thank you for calling. To your comment or contribution to the conversation, Kathy.
Hello.
Yes, good morning.
Morning.
Yes, go right ahead, Kathy. We can hear you clearly.
My name is Catherine. I'm from Machakos County. And I had Professor's contribution on Mutua's comments about what he has done. Now, before devolution came, Machakos was in a pathetic state in most areas.
Okay.
We have had a VP from our area. We had MPs, leaders. But when we look at what Mutua, our governor, inherited, bad roads, we had no water, not that it is in every homestead, but we have water up to around a radius of about 100 meters. In my village, Yazui, we have taps almost all over. The ambulance in our location is in Yazui village, or the market, and we are able to use it. The dispensary that is near where I am is called Ngangani. Has enough medicine, and there's a clinical officer on the ground. Now, the tractors the professor is looking down on, I think that's a step in the right direction, because I wanted my shamba to be cultivated, and I was told whatever is there is for poverty alleviation, not wealth creation. So they did not work on my shamba because they were telling me I should work on mine. They are working on my neighbors who couldn't afford a tractor. We were given chicks. I didn't get, because they told me that this is for poverty alleviation. Now, my neighbors and myself have good roads. My car now doesn't get spoiled as I take the produce to the local market. I think for me that is development. Because unless I'm able to sell what I have to buy soap and oil, which I can't make on the shamba, then there's a problem. Education is another very important aspect. I think every primary school now in the county has the last mile project. Mutua inherited an indebted council, county council, like all other governors. What has any of us done in 4 years to touch the lives of so many people? Mutua is not perfect. He has so many suppliers and contractors issues. But I want to confirm to you that if the residents of Machakos County are honest, we have felt the impact of having a government on the ground.
All right.
Yes, and I wish to ask that, not campaigning, but ask that other governors, as they do the mighty great, we can have at least see development like we have seen it in our county.
Okay. Thank you, Kathy. I think we've got the general gist of your feeling that devolution for you has definitely had a positive impact under the stewardship of Dr. Alfred Mutua. Let's also take a caller from Nakuru. Good morning, and thank you for calling. Jane from Nakuru, good morning.
Morning.
Yes, go right ahead.
I'm a resident of Nakuru for the last many years, but I come from Machakos.
Okay.
And I visit Machakos frequently. My story for Machakos, following what the governor has just told the nation. He has said he has given free chicken. My mother does not have chicken, and I visit her all the time, and I know she doesn't mind having some. About water, I know my mother does not have that water. I've not seen it at least within the 100 meters that people are talking about. I know there is no water, and there is no free chicken. So that's my story for Machakos.
Okay, Jane, just to get your feeling, do you feel like devolution has made a difference in Machakos, generally speaking, given what the governor has said, and you've also just had what Kathy had to say?
I'm picking on water, exactly the things that the governor has talked about, water. My mother doesn't have water, and I know many other people around our village. Around our village, people don't have water.
Okay.
They are quite needy on the issue of water.
All right.
Same to Nakuru. In the estate where I stay, there is no pipe to water. I will tell you that all the pipes were zilingolewa.
Okay.
Hatuna maji. Kwa hivyo that's my story. I'm giving the honest.
Your story. All right, thank you, Jane. That's Jane calling from Nakuru. She is originally from Machakos, but living in Nakuru. But two completely different stories right there. But before you comment, because I know you want to come in, Prof, let's hear from Wajir Governor, because that's a different area. And of course, he's also got some issues that he's dealing with. But let's hear from him first. Then we can continue to talk. And remember, residents of Wajir, if you're watching, would like to hear from you as well as to whether what he is saying is true or not. Let's hear from him.
And here with us now is Wajir Governor, who, of course, has been in the limelight for quite a while now, following issues of negotiated democracy. But before we get to that, Governor, many thanks for joining us here on KTN News.
Thank you for having me.
The devolution transformation, what is the story for Wajir County?
Wajir's story of transformation of lives as a result of devolution is probably one of the best case studies for devolution in Kenya. A lot has changed in the last 4 years. Wajir and a lot of the counties along the northern and northeast border are considered marginalized or have been considered marginalized for a long time. They are deemed peripheral in many ways. And this is where the marginal utility, the real value of devolution has been felt in very important and critical service sectors such as healthcare, water, infrastructure. A lot has changed. We have more than doubled our water sources in the last 4 years. Our borehole cover has more than doubled from about 90 boreholes over 50 years to an additional 140 plus. The last I checked was about 143 in 4 short years. The ponds and dams that we have been able to construct over the last 4 years, the maternity clinics, dispensaries, the drifts, culverts, grading and graveling of roads across the county, ECD schools, you name it. We have had one too many fasts. This is transforming lives, and I believe had this been the story for the last 50 years, we will not today have been talking of 2 Kenyas. We will have had 1 Kenya.
Let's talk of what you speak of, the increase in water resources, increase in number of boreholes, but this is in the wake of the ravaging drought situation, not just in the country, but especially in the northeastern region. And people of Wajir are also suffering from this drought. So are they really benefiting from these water resources?
They are. And I think it's in itself a drought mitigating measure. Droughts are there, they come. But I believe even with the devastating drought that we have in this country today, the situation would have been a lot more worse had it not been for the interventions of the county governments, both in terms of infrastructural development in the area of water for the last 4 years, but also for the emergency interventions we're carrying out today. Because as I speak to you, we are tracking water to no less than 142 sites, to where the livestock and the people are. The livestock is pretty weak. We haven't started seeing mass deaths of livestock in Wajir County, partly because of the interventions we have made. We also have a lot of influx from neighboring counties and neighboring countries, but it's helping mitigate. A lot more, of course, needs to be done. Funding is always a problem because there's only so much you can put into emergency response without completely cancelling all your other developmental projects. And it will be nice if the national government can inject a lot more money directly into the counties to deal specifically with the issue of drought emergency response. But I want to assure you, the situation would have been that much more worse had it not been for the interventions that the county governments in the region are making to deal specifically with this issue of drought.
Right. Now, this is the very first time that Kenya is headed towards a general election with county governments in place. In 2013, it was merely a matter of implementing the constitution. 6 months to the general election, in fact, less than that, and already tension is rising for the governorship seats. We've seen this happen in your county, Wajir County, a lot of controversy surrounding the issue of negotiated democracy. You are endorsed by the Degodia clan of elders for re-election in August, but members of parliament in Wajir do not seem to be in agreement with this.
Some members of parliament, not all.
Some members.
Right. And it's normal that, when people work together, there are differences that develop over time. Of course, with the counties also, this being a new dispensation, there's been a lot of interest that has been attracted as a result of certain members of parliament at the national level wanting to interfere with the decisions being made at the county level. The county governments are governments that are independent functionally and are supposed to have a mutual working relationship with the national government. We do respect members of parliament who hail from the county, but we are running a government. And a government must run its programs. It must implement its vision. And that's what we're doing. And members of parliament are at liberty to realign themselves. But what I want to assure you is that our lineup is the stronger one, and that's why it has the endorsement and backing of the mainstream elder system within the wider Degodia community and within the county. So, as for 1 or 2 members of parliament who feel aggrieved because probably they wanted things done in certain ways, which we didn't quite do because we believed in doing the right thing for the right reason. If they want to go to the other party, we say, good riddance, tukutane kwa debe.
Right.
Thank you.
This is politics after all. But What is your take on the issue of negotiated democracy? Because some say this really stifles the actual essence of democracy, to let people be at liberty to choose their own leader.
I think this whole issue of negotiated democracy is misunderstood. It doesn't really mean that elections will not happen. But what it does ensure is that there's inclusivity in lineups. The party lineups will be there, right? As a minimum, how I look at it is that in most of the counties, we'll still end up with a two-horse race. There'll be a lot of fringe candidates also. So what this ensures is that communities are able to talk, and that whichever lineup wins will be inclusive, because it will have representatives of all the significant minorities included in that particular lineup. And that is what I believe will happen in our case. But if the mainstream elder system endorses you, it gives you a blessing, it gives legitimacy to your candidature, and that's the legitimacy that matters, not by one member or two members of parliament who have their own battles to fight in their own sub-counties. And there's been a lot of lies in the media, because like when it said 15 MCAs have defected from ODM in Wajir, we only have 7 ODM MCAs in Wajir, right? So it's only 5 MCAs from all parties that accompanied these so-called defecting members of parliament. When it said 3 MPs have defected, one of them is already in Jubilee. So I'm surprised that the party bosses don't know that this guy is already one of their own. But it is normal for people to, there are some who've also decided to exit politics and probably are looking for jobs and that kind of thing. This is all expected during this time of elections. There'll be movements here and movements there. But we believe that as an administration, over the last 4 years, we have firmly placed Wajir on the devolution map of Kenya. The things we have been able to do on the ground. People ask us, how much money do you get? And we're not the best funded county. We're about number 13, 14 in the funding. But the things we have been able to do have actually put us squarely on the map. And it's on that basis that we believe we will be re-elected very easily. And for those who have opted to back another candidate, that's why competition is there. I tell them, tushindane kwa amani na tuone ni nani bora.
Now, finally, there's a lot of talk as to whether devolution could be the answer to Kenya's negative ethnicity, and whether it could be entrenched in the election system to ensure that we spread positive ethnicity and the diversity that we have in our country. Do you think this is possible?
For sure, I believe devolution has reduced the fights that we would otherwise have had at the national level. The politics of this country is very much ethnicized. The major parties are built along ethnic lines. That is a reality of our politics. So to the extent that there is a certain level of funding, there is some power that has been devolved to the counties, I believe this sort of scatters the fights that we would have had at the national level. And of course, when you take these resources to the counties, there's also a bit of competition at that level over resources, over positions. That is expected. But I believe if more resources were to be devolved to the counties, we would have had a more even growth of this country. We would have been able to bridge the developmental gap between the have counties and the have-not counties.
What resources are these you say should be devolved?
Currently, strictly on absolute figures of the budget, national budget, what gets devolved is about 10% of the budget. It's probably slightly higher when you talk of the national revenues, because the budget includes an element of debt and certain other things. It's still very low. I believe if we were to devolve, give or take 40, 45%, as the Council of Governors has been seeking, of our revenues to the counties, will have seen much faster development in a lot of these counties. Because with the little resources that we are getting, we've actually been able to do things that would ordinarily have taken us a decade or two to achieve. So more resources should be devolved. Counties should be, and their structures should be nurtured, because we started off with unnecessary fights between the national and county governments. Counties have been painted very negatively over the last 4 years, right? As, you know, dens of corruption, as all sort of things. But I believe the stability that we have in this country today, in spite of the vicious, ethnic-based political fight that we're likely to see in 2017.
Right, so that is the governor for Wajir and Ahmed Abdullahi there giving us his report on devolution in Wajir County. And remember, if you're especially in Wajir, would like to hear from you, because it's one thing to hear from the governor, because of course he's going to praise his report and say what he has done. But something interesting I noticed between most of all, if not all the governors, what they claim they need for them to do this magical thing that devolution is supposed to do is more resources. Is that necessarily a fact? Have they utilized what they have so far effectively to a point where they can now qualify to ask for more?
We don't know. We don't know. And that is my challenge, Michael. For so long as we have not sealed the corruption roots that he is saying that the counties have been demonized over, we cannot tell. We cannot tell whether the resources that have been devolved are enough or they are not enough. Because if what goes to the counties, part of it is stolen, I don't know how much is stolen. There seems to be a sense in which the governors are saying not that much has been stolen. And then other people are saying a lot has been stolen.
It depends on who is saying.
It depends on who is saying. But more importantly, on the issue of resources, is a question of productivity. Anybody, Michael, can be a governor, wait for the central government to send money, and then they take development to the people. It's not rocket science. What is more difficult is, one, to generate your own resources, and then to use those resources in a way that improves the lives of the people. That takes creativity. It takes leadership. But waiting for central government to send you money so that you can build a dispensary, it doesn't take a
work. All right. Yeah. Time is up, and we'll have to wind up right there because we've come to the end of the show. But that's the state of the nation. And you possibly have a story regarding devolution and would love to hear from you. So this conversation continues online, and you can do that via Twitter. We'd like to take a short break. When we come back, we've got some news updates. Those of us on KTN Home, bye, because